Very happy to be joined by Jeff Dornik here on the TMI Show. He's the founder and CEO of Pickax. That's a social media site dedicated to freedom of speech and freedom of reach. I'm sure he'll explain what that means. He's also the host of the Jeff Dornik Show, where he's interviewed everyone from Senator Ron Johnson to FBI Director Kash Patel to Dr. Pierre Corey and more. Jeff, thanks for joining us here on the TMI Show.
Thanks for having me on. Been looking forward to chat with you guys.
Likewise.
Hey, so we've got a lot of first of all, a lot of questions besides this, about your actual social media site. But tell us what CEOing is actually like.
Yeah, it's a lot of multitasking and talking to lots of different people in lots of different areas and lots of meetings and phone calls and all that kind of stuff. And luckily, we don't have like a ton of like employees necessarily, but I'm working with teams. Our tech team is based in Texas, dealing with a whole host of different people and all that. So there's definitely a lot of working. I live on the West Coast, but I work East Coast time. So I wake up at like 4:30 in the morning and then work through that just because I got to deal with all the East Coast, people and all that. So it's a different lifestyle. And then throw on top of that, we have an almost 3-year-old, son running around the house. And so between that and starting a company, it definitely keeps you busy.
Been there. We're all boy parents here on this show.
Yes.
Apparently. So I get it. My son's only 6. So it wasn't a distant memory of 3 and the trouble that they boys get into.
Mine's 21, and it's still not a distant memory.
Yes.
We did just a couple weeks ago. We did have a run in over to the ER just with just goofing around and running into sliced his nose open. Had to deal with that whole thing,
no.
And so luckily he was a trooper. Did phenomenal. Did great.
Stitches.
But you're being a parent of a 3-year-old boy who has a lot of energy. It's that comes with the territory.
Yeah, that happened to my kid too. And it was like, you get that call. So I'm at the ER. We need to know, are we doing plastic surgery or not? I'm like, for what?
Yeah. Well, it was funny too, because I that next weekend I spoke at an event up in Rochester, New York, and there was a lot of doctors and things like that were there. And I was sitting with a couple of them who used to be like ER, work in the ER and ICU and all of that. And they're like, the kids are usually great when they come in for things like that. They're great, and just like with our son, it's the parents that they have to calm down. That are freaking out and all that kind of stuff. So.
Sure.
I was just at urgent care yesterday, so yeah. I know we spent an hour and a half at urgent care yesterday. But this is like a regular thing for my son.
The kids are troopers. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But it was me going like hyperventilating, like, oh totally. My God, what's wrong with his eye? Oh, is he going to be blind? Like, what do we? Do I need an eye patch? What's happening here? But. To that end, it's very nice to meet you, and we all have that in common. Kids at different stages in life, all boys. And oh boy, have I got things to say about being a parent to a young one in this day and age. But we'll save that for another time, because I feel like you and I could talk about that.
Oh yeah,
Jeff.
Oh yeah.
Ted's almost clear. He's got a different issue because his kid's already in college. So that's But that's a whole different.
But it never ends, as you guys know. It never ends.
It's a whole different set of issues for that generation in this era, which is what we
sometimes involving, as you well know, social media.
That's true.
Yeah, very much so. So first, let me ask you, Jeff, like right off the top about your site. One, why another social media site in an already crowded market space? I mean, because we have Truth Social, we have Blue Sky, Getter. I mean, of course, outside of the mainstream, which is Twitter, which Elon vowed to bring free speech back. Why another social media site?
Yeah, definitely. So honestly, when the whole idea of starting another social media site came up was when Elon bought X. And I started, kind of following along with what he was doing, who he was hiring, what's going on. And I started looking at this, and I'm like, this is not going to be a free speech platform, despite of what he's saying. Like this to me was a big, data grab, because I just started sitting here thinking, and I'm like, you don't go and get a loan for $44 billion to defend free speech. You have to have some sort of like return. What's going on? Well, it turns out that I ended up being right, that it was a massive data collection, thing in order to incorporate XAI or Grok, his artificial intelligence. And what a lot of people don't realize about Elon Musk is that, he is one of the biggest data collectors in the entire world. Tesla is a massive data collection thing. And so what a lot of people don't realize is that they're collecting data on basically everywhere you're going in your Tesla. Anytime you plug in your iPhone or any smartphone to charge your phone in a Tesla, they're collecting your data off of your phone, and then it's going into their servers and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people don't realize that. But if you actually go look at the terms and conditions when you buy your Tesla, you are giving them permission to collect all of your data off of your phone just when you plug it in. So I always tell everybody, be careful when you're riding a Lyft or an Uber and you're plugging in your phone to charge it or whatever it is, because that's all going on a Tesla server. So this was just another thing. And then you start looking at, okay, what are the terms and conditions that they're putting in, as they're developing X when they transferred it from Twitter over to X? Well, they have this policy, and you can go look it up right now. It's called freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach, which means they will basically allow you to say whatever you want, but that doesn't mean that they have to allow anybody to actually see it. And so that, to me, flies directly in the face of what our founding fathers desired for freedom of speech, where if you go back and you look at the early days, the whole point of the First Amendment, you have freedom of speech and you have freedom of the press. And a lot of people, they think that freedom of the press is that if you're a credentialed journalist, you can say whatever you want. But that's not what our founding fathers intended. Freedom of speech was you can go down to your local town square and you could say whatever you want. You could spout your opinions. You get a freedom of expression, freedom of thought, the whole deal. Freedom of the press was your individual right to write out your grievances, go down to your local printing press, print up a bunch of pamphlets, and then distribute it amongst whoever will take your pamphlet without restriction from the government. So the very definition is without restriction. So they can't limit you. But so you cannot be a free speech platform if they are limiting your reach or your ability to pass out your digital pamphlet, which would be a tweet or an article or a blog or something along those lines. So when everybody's talking about free speech, I think everybody was thinking, okay, well, Elon's not kicking me off the platform. Okay, great. That's nice. But what's the difference between getting kicked off or being able to post something and you earn a following of, let's say, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 followers or 3,000 followers, and they only let 3 people actually see your post? Is that actually free speech by definition? I would argue not. So that's really became the motivation behind building another social media platform, is trying to bring something where you can have freedom of speech, freedom of reach. We're really leaning into helping content creators to be able to have more direct access to their audience without us being gatekeepers, and then also helping people to be able to monetize, because that's another aspect of censorship that's going on, is the demonetization aspect as well. So we're just trying to basically find how can we use technology to help give everybody their voice back and their platforms back, and be able to support themselves while they are either, being a journalist or being a blogger, being a writer, hosting a show, whatever that might be. We're trying to facilitate kind of bringing back that true freedom of expression.
Jeff, let me ask you about how does that look, right? So the practical aspect of this, I mean, we're basically talking about throttling. And, so I was never dumped off X, but in the old regime, pre-Musk, I was throttled ruthlessly. Basically, I mean, I had about 9,000 followers, and just, sort of during the Biden years, I just noticed that suddenly no one ever saw or responded or liked anything that I did, even though I didn't change my content.
I got labeled. I got labeled Russian propagandist and
Russian media. I remember that.
Because I worked for RT. I was Russian media. I was, like completely shadow banned. I had like thousands of followers I'm still shadow banned on Facebook, but I suspect that's because the Zuckerberg has this like no politics. It might not be specific to my politics, but he's basically said like, we're throttling political content, and that's what I do. So on Pickax, are you saying that you have a zero throttling policy completely, or is it partial? What does it look like, actually?
Yeah, so we're what we always say is we are content and topic neutral. So we don't get involved in, you have a particular opinion, so we're going to throttle you, anything like that. So what we do is we kind of have a couple different feeds and different ways that we structurally build them. So you have your primary news feed, and within that you have 3 tabs. So you have your news feed. You can see all the posts that are among all the people that you follow. And the next tab that we have is your articles tab, and then the third one would be a videos tab. But in each of those, we do that chronologically based among the people that you follow. But then if there's engagement or somebody likes something that you did or a comment or whatever it is, that will get bumped back up to the top. Because I feel like that's the most fair way. And that way, if you're logging in, the first thing that you see is either going to be chronological or it's going to be like one of the more popular things that's getting a lot of engagement. Then you have, so that's just like a chronological, we're not messing with anything. If you follow somebody, you have equal access to their content. The trending tab
Jeff, sorry to interrupt, but one quick question, interjection. So, I mean, are you concerned about sort of the phenomenon of popularity begets popularity, and something that's a slow build might get pushed down, but might have ultimately become, might have grown and then emerged, right? I mean, it's sort of like if you can find a bookstore, but if you go to a bookstore, people go to the front of the store and there's the bestsellers. People are, oh, that's a bestseller. Right. And they buy the bestseller. The bestseller remains a bestseller because it was a bestseller, because it was, you know what I mean?
Because they told you it was a bestseller, just like when Oprah tells you, oh, these are my favorite books.
But maybe your favorite book would have been number 6,000 that week, right? So
totally. Right. No, yeah, that's definitely one of those things that because I don't want our platform to just be a platform where somebody who's already famous comes on and then they're immediately the top person. There's no competing with them, and they just dominate the platform. Because to me, I want to see people thrive, and I want to see interesting people thrive on the platform. And so one of the things that I'm working on right now, obviously the next couple of steps that we're developing is a couple of new features. We're going to roll out the app, because right now we're web-based only. But one of the things that I do want to be able to do is have a little bit more of a curated feed that maybe we'll add in there, or some sort of recommendation or trending to where we can begin to highlight people that are posting really good quality content, but maybe they don't have 1 million followers or 500,000 followers or whatever it is, or maybe you've never even heard of them, but they're consistently posting really good content. Right now the way that we're doing that structurally is I have a Pickax news feed that we have on there that we really promote a lot, where we're kind of curating what are the top articles that are being posted on the platform.
Is this on the right side that we have on the screen right here? Is that what it is?
No. So actually, basically, I have an account set up right now it's called Pickax News, and we have it to where when you sign up, that will be one of the accounts that you automatically follow, and then that way that's a little bit more of a curated feed. So if we're seeing that somebody's posting an article or a video or whatever it is that seems interesting, then we're posting it, whether that person has 5 followers or 100,000 followers. It doesn't matter. We're going through and we're trying to curate. This looks interesting. We're not pushing this based upon topic or issue or opinion. We're doing it based on this looks like an interesting, conversation starter, basically. And we're not looking at the follower count when we're deciding that. The only condition that we have to have is that you have to be verified. And the reason why we're doing that is that way we can basically rule out a lot of the trolls and the bot farms, and because we all know that a lot of the intelligence agencies, both ours and foreign, are using these bot farms in order to manipulate algorithms and all of that. So by having a verification system, and the only way you can truly trend or be recommended or really be seen is to be verified, we know that that's actually a human being and not just manipulating the system and the algorithms with bot farms. So that's really our only condition, is you have to be verified, and then if you're posting interesting content, then you may get highlighted on the Pickax news feed.
So we already have viewer questions for you coming in. Adrian in Europe wants to know how you plan on monetizing, and would you be any different in terms of data collection, like you pointed out with Elon's version of Twitter X?
Yeah. So our monetization strategy is, we're doing it a little bit differently. Obviously, we have the ability for content creators to be able to put things behind a paywall if they so choose. And so that's one opportunity that we have. The other one that we are doing is we are running ads right now. We're doing a slightly different strategy. Instead of doing impressions based ads, we are doing almost like an affiliate style model, to where we get paid as a company if our ads generate revenue for the company. And so then they will pay us based upon those generated ads. And the thing that I realized from running a podcast network is that it's not as consistent, but you can actually generate more revenue by going down this route. If you're strategic in, the kind of companies that you work with and partner with and all that, we're also eventually going to develop our own Pickax Plus, premium stuff, but we're not doing it to where you're buying access or buying views or buying, a higher rank in the algorithm. We're doing it where we're going to be offering particular features that you will probably want. And if you want it, great. If not, that's fine. And we're not going to like penalize you by not being a premium subscriber of Pickax. It's just, we're going to have some extra features, maybe some extra analytics. Maybe you can send out email newsletters. There'll be some interesting, unique things that we feel like you would actually want to pay for. Kind of thing. So that's really going to be our monetization, strategy. But specifically from a content creator standpoint, we're going to be doing a revenue share from our ad revenue among our content creators. But unlike X, where it's really based upon impressions, which is leading to a lot of the clickbait and just the firebombs and everybody posting insanity across the platform, we're going to be doing it to where it's going to be kind of a combination of article views and impressions, post views and impressions, the number of followers that you have. It's going to be kind of this aggregated, almost you could say it's an algorithm, but a way that we're able to see it, that it's not just you going on there and posting controversial, one hit, posts. It's, are you also getting engagement on your articles? Because you can write articles on our platform, which is going to be long form content, which means you're going to have to spend more time and energy and effort into actually, writing. Are your videos that you're posting, is that getting interesting engagement or impressions or views or things like that? So we're going to be looking at it from not just the, can I post this controversial one hit, clickbaity, post. It's going to be,
Right.
am I providing quality long form content to the platform? And then we'll have a revenue share for content creators on our platform from that standpoint.
And do you view this, your site in particular, will it be aimed towards like a right-leaning population? Is it going to be a destination for the right, the way, at least, I don't know if that was the intent of like, say, Getter or even Truth Social or gosh, I can't even rattle off all of them. But anything, it seemed like at least during Twitter 1.0, anything else that started up was deemed automatically right off the bat as, a far right destination. And, do you want to attract lefties, all types, or is this going to be catered specifically to people, kind of right leaning and further right?
No, yeah. So it's a really good question, and I thought through that a lot in the early days of developing this. I realized like my target audience, that the crowd that I want to attract is kind of center left, center right, because I feel like that's when you really start getting interesting conversations. We can bring back nuanced conversation and actually debate and discuss things without just like, when you start getting into the hardcore MAGA crowd or the hardcore progressive left crowd, a lot of times it's literally just attacks and everybody's just talking past each other, and that's not really what I want. I kind of want, I'm really going after that center left, center right crowd that's just sane. We can have conversations, we can have debates, and we're not hating each other at the end of it. So that's really the target audience. But specifically when it came to those other alternative social media platforms, I know a lot of the CEOs and a lot of the platforms. I actually pitched my idea for Pickax to several of the other social media platforms, and they all turned me down. And so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to go get my own investor and do my own thing. But when you look at Gab, for example, they got big, and I like Andrew Torba as a person, but the platform just got hijacked, because the reason why Gab got big was because Facebook started kicking off all the white nationalists and the KKK guys and all the racists and Nazis and all that, and then they had nowhere else to go, so they all congregated on Gab. Torba ended up leaning into that side of things a little bit, too much, I would say. But what ended up happening was that they just became this cesspool for anonymous troll, white supremacist, Nazi, KKK members. And you can't actually have a good, rational conversation with anybody over there, because they're all immediately, if you talk about anything that could have anything to do with the quote unquote, with the Jews, all of a sudden it gets hit with Nazis and KKK. And you're just like, this is insane, right? Whether or not the platform is good or not, which I liked structurally the platform, it's just a cesspool for racism and Nazism, whatever it is. So, but then Getter and True Social, they got big in the censorship days of Twitter when everybody was getting kicked off. And I got kicked off of Twitter for interviewing an African-American, conservative guy that was running for Senate out of Illinois. And it was in the middle of COVID. And I asked him, why is the African American community so hesitant to get vaccinated? Because the rate for the African American community getting vaccinated was far lower than other races. And he brought up the Tuskegee experiments, and he's like, culturally, we have this stigma that do we actually trust these health agencies when they're coming in for that? And I got banned from Twitter for asking about that and talking about that because I was promoting vaccine hesitancy. And so what ended up happening, I had nowhere else to go, so I went over to Getter along with a lot of my other friends that were getting kicked off, and it was mostly right-leaning conservative MAGA crowd people that were there. So it ended up being same thing with Gab. We ended up congregating on this other platform, and so you can go through and you can see this. And so then when I saw Pickax, I'm like, it's going to be a much harder build because we don't benefit from people being kicked off of the platform. But that means the nice thing though is that if people are coming over to Pickaxe, it's because they see the value in what we're offering. And so then it's not just going to be this cesspool of one group that's getting targeted by another social media platform and they have nowhere else to go. I'm actually having to go out and I'm earning it. So that's why I'm going on conservative shows. I'm going on left-leaning shows. I'm going on center-left. I'm talking to people in the entertainment industry. I've got a meeting later today with an up-and-coming, comic book, company. It's like, come on over to Pickaxe. Here's how we can help facilitate what you guys are trying to accomplish. And so by doing that, it's a much harder build. But I think in the long run, it's actually going to be a lot more quality. We can actually bring back center left, center right, sane thinking, rational people onto the platform. But every single person that's coming over, we're earning, as opposed to, oh my gosh, I just get kicked off of the social media platform. I have nowhere else to go.
Yeah, I feel like we know that Blue Sky launched recently. Same founder as Twitter, right? Same guy. I've also heard that he's kind of gone off the rails himself personally. I'm not sure. Don't know the guy. But because he invented Twitter, or I don't know, I've been a user of Twitter since like 2009, right? Since it was in its infancy, and now there's Blue Sky that was meant to, I think, in my opinion, I don't use it, but it's catered towards the left. If people are going to kind of brand all these different social media platforms, Gab and Getter is for right-wing nut jobs, and Blue Sky is for these soft, squishy snowflake leftists. Is there really a space, you think, for people to want to be a mishmash of things where, I don't know, if there is no censorship on Pickaxe, isn't it just liable to become like this mudslinging place?
Well, so I think that, so when the nice thing is that Truth Social already has the hardcore MAGA people, right? I'm not trying to compete with them, right? I was talking with somebody that worked over at Rumble the other day, and they're trying to pitch me on advertising on even Truth Social. I'm like, let the MAGA people go over there. That's totally fine. Like if the MAGA crowd wants to come over to Pickaxe, by all means, come on over, whatever it is. But I'm not targeting that because they already have their home base and they're not leaving Trump that's over there on Truth Social. They're over there, they're following him. That's totally fine. For me personally, like I voted for Trump in all three elections, but I actually endorsed RFK Jr. this last time around, which got me in a lot of heat with a lot of my friends and all that kind of stuff. But it was really interesting because being in that crowd, I started, it really changed the way that I thought through things. Where one of the things that RFK Jr. said at a lot of the events that I was at with him was that he's like, I'm not looking at what divides us. I'm looking at what unites us, because those things that unite us, we can actually accomplish something if we actually unite over that issue. That's not to say that we ignore our differences, but let's actually debate the differences, but let's find where we have common ground, and then we can discuss that, and then we can debate our nuanced differences of opinion. And in all reality, I would argue that for a lot of the everyday Americans, our differences aren't as drastic as what you see in the mainstream media and the news. We can actually discuss, debate, and all of that. So I think a lot of what we're going to be able to do with Pickaxe is because I'm not targeting the easy low-hanging fruit of the MAGA crowd or the easy low-hanging fruit of the Blue Sky crowd, that sort of thing. we can actually just get a bunch of sane people. And it's been a pretty positive experience on Pickaxe, where we can have discussions, debates, and nobody actually hates each other. I'm not saying that that you'll never get the hateful rhetoric or the hateful people that are on there. But the thing that I realize is that when you look at platforms like Gab or even like X, where you start to see a lot of the hateful rhetoric, a lot of that is with anonymous accounts. It's with it's being fueled by the trolls and the bot farms and the AI driven anonymous accounts, and even the ones that have the blue check marks. It's the people that have fake accounts, that they're not putting their face on there, they're not putting their name on there, they have no skin in the game. So but with us, the way that we're weeding that out is actually by our verification system, where the only way that you're really going to get found on our platform is to be a verified account, which means that you are who you say you are. And the nice thing about that is that now you actually have skin in the game. So if you say something that's hateful or divisive or whatever, you're actually going to have to stand behind that on our platform and, you know, take the blowback. If you say something, we're not going to censor you, but the blowback is going to come from other people or your friends or your family or whatever it is. And there begins to be a little bit of a check and balance, in the rhetoric that you don't get on a lot of these other platforms, where you can hide behind a fake account.
Let me ask you about the verification. By the way, I love the theory of that, and no one's been more victimized by anonymous trolls than me.
Trolls are cowards, right?
Well, they're the worst. They're the absolute worst. They're the scourge of the internet. Worst. Now that said, poking around Pickaxe this morning, I took note of that, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I want to be verified, but then I'm like, how do I know you're not going to pull an Elon and collect my driver's license? You have to upload the back and front of your driver's license to be verified, right? Mm-hmm. I'll set aside the fact that some people don't drive, whatever. Point is, how do I know you're not going to sell that data to Elon?
Yeah. Well, so when we do our verification system, literally all we're looking at is your birth date, where you live. Are you in the United States? Because right now we're US based only. But are you in the United States? And does your name match with the name that's on there? And I always tell everybody, if you do have a verified pseudonym or a company or whatever it is, to email us, and we'll figure out how to verify that you are who you.
Yeah, like my legal name isn't Ted, right?
Right.
I mean,
right,
that kind of thing.
Right. So
you'd be able to tell because my middle name is Theodore's, but still.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the thing is that, like, for example, it's like if we're getting a bunch of gamers that are coming over to our platform because we're connecting with Rumble in a way that, if you post a Rumble video, it's playable on our platform. We're rolling out a beta feature to where you can actually connect your Rumble channel to your Pickaxe account, and to where it automatically post your video or your show when you post on Rumble, and it's playable. So we're actually getting a lot of gamers that are hopping over. And I had to start kind of rethinking this, because I'm like, well, the gamer, their name that everybody knows them by on Rumble is not their actual name, but I can see that that's actually the person. So I'm working on a new verification, program to where we can verify. Let's say if you're a gamer and you're on Rumble, I can see that people will want to know that you are actually that gamer person by that handle. And so we're verifying
use,
that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Right. Like, how do you verify Combo Panda?
I mean, we're gonna have to, that's one of those things that we're doing. So one of my ideas is have a different, check mark for verified, pseudonyms or gamers or, things like that, to where, okay, this person, obviously their ID doesn't match that name. However, they are a recognized, person, whether or not you're a gamer or you're, and cat turd's not on our platform, but if you're a cat turd, it's like people are going to want to know, is this the actual cat turd or is this a fake cat turd? So we're gonna have to figure that one out, to where maybe we have a different color check mark for these pseudonyms that are on the platform, but that's actually the person that you want to follow, and that pseudonym.
And how would you verify them? I mean, I'm just wondering, practically.
So right now, the way that we've done it with the Rumble gamers that have come over is that they'll come over, they still upload their ID, and again, we're just doing a verification. And also for people to know, we immediately delete your ID information from our servers, so we're not holding on to that information or collecting that and all that. But for right now, what we've been doing is the vast majority of them have been able to they have an email that's associated with their Rumble account, and we've been able to verify it that way to where we can see, okay, it's the same person here. So that's what we've been doing. I'm working on a more sophisticated version that I'm still working through with my tech team to be able to do this kind of a thing. But that's one of those things that, like, over the last couple of weeks, we've had an influx of the gamers, and that's where I'm kind of like, I'm gonna have to rethink this one a little bit, because not everybody where their name doesn't match with their ID is doing it for, to hide behind it. The gaming community is huge, and so we're trying to figure out how to work through that one. But with the data collection, I will say this: we're not collecting anybody's data. There's a little bit of analytics that obviously we're tracking. It's like, okay, who's getting what kind of impressions, or what are you doing on our platform? We're not tracking anybody off the platform. And I figured out a way that we can target ads to where I don't have to collect your data. So I'm doing ad targeting based upon content and based upon the creators, as opposed to what the users are looking at. So, for example, if somebody is let's say writing about health and wellness or food or whatever it is, we're going to know that that's the kind of ads that you're going to want to see, because that's the kind of stuff that you're reading. So by targeting it based upon the topic and based upon the creator and the kind of genre that they're a part of. Yeah, exactly. So like, for example, and they're not one of our advertisers, but it's like, I know if you have a hardcore Republican that's writing about election fraud, you're probably going to want to run a MyPillow ad. So, but maybe somebody that's writing about, like health and wellness and food, they're not going to want to see Mike Lindell pop up on their advertising. The other thing that we're going to roll out here in the next couple of months, as well, is allow content creators to decide which of our ads will show on their content. So that'll be another way that we can target ads to where they can prioritize, because there's a lot of content creators. Again, if we're going for a more nuanced and center left, center right crowd, there's going to be some people that they may want to have the wellness company advertise on their content. There's other people that have serious problems with the wellness company, and they don't want their advertising shown on their content. So by allowing content creators to kind of prioritize the advertisers that are shown, we're able to target based upon their preferences as well, which I think it's a way that I can target without actually collecting anybody's data.
Well, that's a big deal, because for all those content creators on, let's say on X, and I still dead name it Twitter, because it's Twitter. Yeah. It's Twitter, whatever. Yeah. It's still Twitter. I don't care. But if you're monetized there, you don't get any control or any say over what pops up in your own, within your content, right? Like, you have no control over that. It's all Elon Musk and what they decide for you, and whoever is, paying for that particular spot for whatever reason. So if you're a big content creator, it's Elon's choice. It's not a la carte the way you're kind of describing here. So I know you guys are kind of like in beta, I guess, right now, right? You're in pre-launch. Producer Robbie wants to pop in real quick for a question for you as well. Let me bring him on there.
Howdy.
Robbie.
Hey there, how's it going?
No, it's going good. It's good to be able to put a face and a voice to the Twitter handle. So no, I'm glad to hear about the whole verification change, because I am your favorite bot, Putin Bot Gaming. That is me. So obviously my ID does not match my my moniker over here on Rumble. So that's good. No, what my question is for you is, you're going for, it sounds like more like the populist left and the populist right. And I agree with you. Like, I'm a right winger, Ted's a commie, and we have a lot of overlap. Now, we have some fierce disagreements, and we had one just before the show started. That was just me against my two esteemed hosts over there. But no, I just wanted to let you know, I think that's awesome. I like what you're doing. I've been on your platform now for about 2 weeks. Love it. Think about deleting my X account, like, honestly, and just be on Pickax just because I hate X. But no, what my question is the way that you're kind of going out and marketing. How are people finding you on a grassroots level? Like, are you going to rallies? Are you going to protests? And if you are you just going to the righties? Are you going to the lefties? Or how are you pounding the pavement to let people know, hey, I'm here. You have an alternative. Elon Musk is not your friend. Facebook is not your friend. And here you can actually speak and people can actually see what is it you're saying. So how are people finding you outside of advertising on X?
Yeah, totally. So there's been a lot of, mostly I've been going on shows. I come out of the more conservative world, but I also created a lot of enemies when I endorsed RFK Jr. instead of Donald Trump. So that kind of changed a lot of the dynamic of what shows have me on and what shows don't, and all that. But I think up till now it's been mostly podcast interviews, going on shows, the whole deal. We're bringing on a publicist that's going to be helping to book a lot more of a diverse interview slate and all that kind of stuff. We sponsored an event called the Summit for Truth and Wellness that was up in Rochester, New York, where we had it was hosted by Shannon Joy, who's radio show host, podcast host, all that kind of stuff. But we had a lot of medical freedom people that were there, and obviously they've been censored left and right, every which way. And so, I participated in a panel there on, technology and technocracy and AI and artificial intelligence and all that. And then there was another panel on medical freedom and all of that. And so that was another way that we did it. I just emceed the walkaway, rallied yesterday in Beverly Hills as well. And then, but we're going to be going to some, a couple of gaming conferences coming up. We're going to be going to, some health and wellness things. I was at the Natural Products Expo West, which is definitely not a cesspool of conservatives over there. And so, so we're trying to be as diverse as we can. And I think it was nice, and I didn't do this strategically, but it was nice that I endorsed RFK Jr. because I think it really helped to help people to understand that, like, I'm not just another MAGA CEO like Getter and Gab and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to bring back free thinking and nuanced conversation and debate and all of that. And also, I think even like yesterday at the rally, like, my main point for being there, and I've talked to Brandon Straka about this a lot with the walkaway campaign, was that all I want people to do is realize that just because you're a part of a particular class of a group or whatever it is, that you don't have to vote a particular way. Whether and I say this to the Republicans and I say this to the Democrats, is just because you're a part of this group does not mean that you have to follow the leader and just do whatever you're told. You can be your own person. That means that maybe on some issues you agree with the Democrats, and maybe on some issues you agree with the Republicans, and maybe like me on some issues you disagree with both of them at the same time. Right. And so you can have a little bit more of a nuanced opinion, and you don't have to follow the leader just because your leader tells you to do X, Y, and Z. So that's really been a lot of my message, and I'll go anywhere that people will allow me to say that kind of thing.
Why the name Pickax? I got to know the name. Why Pickax?
So with Pickax, we were brainstorming, and we were trying to figure out something that, because I'm trying to be very human centered. I've taken a very anti-AI approach with stuff, because I've got a lot of concerns for the future of AI. Again, it could be a great tool, but also it's also a tool that could end humanity as we know it. And so I wanted to promote a very human centered idea. And so when we were just throwing ideas around, all of a sudden, I forget who it was that suggested it, but we came up with this idea of Pickaxe, and it emotes a lot more of like manual labor kind of mentality. But also, we wanted something that we could turn into a verb. And so what we'd have on the platform is if you like something, you pick it. If you don't, you axe it. And so that way you can have a kind of a positive, negative, reaction to different things. But the other side of it.
And what happens if you axe it? Does it disappear, or does
no? It'll still be there. But so if you pick it, it'll show up and highlight as like a teal green. If you axe it, it'll show up as like a red. So it's kind of like a thumbs up, thumbs down kind of mentality on the way that you can
like downgrading it.
Because I mean, one of the things I hate about like Reddit, for example, in their interface is, you could have say 1 million likes, upvotes, 1 million downvotes, and so the net is 1 or 0. But the fact is that thing engaged with 2 million people, but it looks like nobody cared. That's stupid.
Because it's a wash.
Right. Well, and so we're not doing it as a way that you can upvote or downvote in the algorithms or the way that it's seen. To me, the way that we're treating it right now, and we're going to again fine tune a little bit of everything as well as we go along. But both of those are seen as an engagement, because I don't want it to just be, because originally we were thinking, oh, let's do an upvote and downvote and people decide what trends and what doesn't based upon popularity. And then I'm just sitting here thinking, and I'm like, so then all you have to do is if you just cater to your base and just preach to the choir. And then, or let's just say people weaponize that against you, and they just get a bunch of people to downvote it.
That's what they do.
You're screwed. And so I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, and I'm like, I want to encourage people to have interesting and nuanced conversations, and also don't be afraid to say something that's controversial. But if you're afraid of that algorithm of the upvote and the downvote, and that's going to affect you, you're not going to say something that may be controversial or outside the box or things like that.
Self-censor.
Yeah. And so for me, I'm looking at it like, okay, so both of those are seen as a positive form of engagement, because you just said something that's maybe somebody said, hey, I disagree with that, but that's a good thing. We should be okay with disagreeing with each other and not be afraid of that. So we're definitely not going the Reddit route of it's not a popularity contest when it comes to the upvote, downvote. It's just another way of you being able to engage with that post.
How did the rally go yesterday? Like, well, did you have a big turnout? Was anything interesting happen? Was it kumbaya and bonfires and marshmallows? How did that work out for you?
Just so in case you can't see it, we have it up on the screen. This is from the walkaway rally was it in Beverly Hills, Jeff? I'm from Los Angeles.
Yeah, so it started in West Hollywood, and then we went over to Beverly Hills. So,
and what was this rally about?
Yeah, so my friend Brandon Strzok, he's got an organization called Walk Away, where what he does is he just goes around and he lets people know that, hey, you just because you are in his case, so he's a gay conservative now, but he used to be a Democrat, and so he's like, just because you're a part of this class of people, whether it's gay, African American, minority, whatever it is, doesn't mean that you have to vote Democrats. So the whole point of it is just saying, like, look, don't just, again, like I always say, don't just play follow the leader. You can think for yourself, and whether or not you will continue to vote Democrat is totally fine, but just know you don't have to just because you happen to be a part of this classification class. And so we ended up starting in West Hollywood. Initially, we were going to do a march through WeHo, and then Antifa showed up, and things started getting a little spicy. And so Brandon pulls me aside. He's like, do you think we should do our intended route? I'm like, I think we should probably just go straight towards Beverly Hills, because we had police protection in Beverly Hills, but not in West Hollywood. And so West Hollywood came out with a statement where before our event that said that we don't condone this event, and this event does not represent the values of West Hollywood. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, literally the message of this entire event was, you have value because you're an individual, not because you're part of a classification of a group. And so like, why is that bad? And we said from the stage multiple times, these protesters that are over here, it's like, we're here to defend your right to speak too. We believe that everybody as an individual is created in the image of God, and you have intrinsic value by being an individual. And so everybody, left, right, whatever it is, you have value, and your thoughts matter, and your speech matters, and the whole deal. But it was a great event, but it was definitely getting a little crazy, because we did have Antifa in their full get up, and you could tell who were the legitimate protesters that were there, because they truly believe that what we were doing is bad. And I get it, I disagree with them, obviously. But then you had the instigators that were there that you could tell were trying to start something. There was one guy that was arrested. It was definitely a wild experience.
Look, I'm from Los Angeles, born and raised. It was like I was born, turned 18, and like somehow I was automatically enrolled into being a Democrat. Although I haven't voted Democrat since Al Gore, and all of that fell apart. I've primarily voted progressive, but this time around I did vote for Donald Trump, and I've said it publicly, and I've never voted Republican before in my entire life. So stuff like this appeals to people like me, right? Like, and what you're saying, what Pickax represents, it appeals to people like me, right? Like I don't know if I'm kind of a moderate, or I just, whatever makes sense. It's a la carte, topic a la carte, right? It's like I might go way right on this thing, but I might go way progressive on this other thing. And above all, I'm going to do what feels right to me. Like, forget all whatever the label is. Don't care. So something like this, and I believe, Ted, we've had Brandon Straka on when we were at Radio Sputnik.
That's right.
I think it was the day that I was off. So I remember, being excited to hear that he was going on the program, because I think more people need to understand that this is, politics should not be weaponized into small political camps, or large political camps in this case of, this tribalism is what is tearing this country apart. So that said, I don't, unless you have something else, Ted, I want to throw this out at you as the last question, Jeff, is that given your experience this weekend in WeHo, and the rabble rousers were bound to show up anytime that you're trying to call for unity amongst the population, at what point did, I would say that the left, where I come from the left, at what point did they give up and abandon the idea of free speech and the working class, and why they've lost election after election because of those issues? When did they abandon that, and how and when did it become an issue of the far right?
Yeah. So this is the hard part about this conversation, because it's a very nuanced conversation, and there's a difference between the public perception that's out there in the mainstream media and what's really going on. So like, the last couple of decades, obviously there's been a switch. You go back to like the 70s, whatever it is. Free speech was totally a Democrat thing, and the Republicans were just like, we got to push our conservative values and our Christian values on everybody. And obviously that progressed for a very long time. And I'm saying that as a conservative, lifelong conservative Christian, I've always voted Republican. And the first time I even considered not was this last election cycle, going with RFK when he was running. But what's interesting is that it's like since Trump got in, it's like all of a sudden you really started seeing a lot of really big push from the left talking about like misinformation and disinformation, and especially with COVID, that really ramped up. And then all of a sudden you started seeing the conservatives that were started being like, well, hey, you can't censor us, even though we were the ones that were censoring everybody in decades past. You can't censor us. So then all of a sudden everything flipped. And but then now I'm seeing like a lot of conservative and a lot of MAGA people, the same ones that were censored throughout COVID and all the craziness, they're now talking about like, how dare you platform this person? How dare you do this? And I'm just like, come on, guys, can we just like be consistent? This is where
nope. Nope. We can't.
Careful. Neither side, nope. I would argue this, neither side is consistent at all. And the perfect example of this is this whole continuing resolution fight that we have every year or whatever it is, where it's like when a Democrat's in charge, Republicans oppose the continuing resolution. When a Republican's in charge, the Democrats oppose the continuing resolution. And I'm like, you guys are the same coin, just different sides of it. You guys are both doing the exact same thing. And so when we're talking about free speech and censorship and all of that, it just comes down to whoever's in power. Is really what it comes down to. And it's really frustrating, because it's like when Republicans are in charge, and right now you've got Republicans in charge, it's like all of a sudden now we're just sitting here and we're like, okay, well let's deplatform everybody, let's censor, let's why are you doing, and
let's censor colleges and universities.
Yeah, I'm just like, can we just have free speech? Can we
censor Gaza protesters?
Exactly.
But everybody likes free speech for their side, and they hate the free speech of the other side. That's all it is.
And this was one thing that got me in trouble, even my colleges. I went to a very conservative Christian, Baptist school in Arizona, when Arizona was coming up with they were trying to put in a constitutional amendment to ban gay marriage. And I remember telling a lot of my conservative Christian friends, I'm like, I don't think that this is the fight that you guys actually want to have, because the pendulum swings back and forth. And so when conservatives are pushing to ban gay marriage, you're like, okay, cool. Maybe you have the majority now, and you guys are trying to push, your religious beliefs and all that. Totally fine. You're well within your right to do so, but just be aware that pendulum is going to swing back the other way, and you guys are going to be outnumbered. If this is just a popularity contest among Christians or whatever it is, like that pendulum's going to swing. All of a sudden, you guys are going to be outnumbered at some point. Is this really the battle that you guys want to have, where it's just going to be a popularity contest between, let's say Christians and Muslims and atheists and all of that about who has the most people in this country? Or do we just want to fight for constitutional rights? And I think that that's something that I think a lot of people, they start identifying with their team. And then, so then it's just whatever I have to do to have my team win is what I'm going to do, as opposed to taking a step back, figure out what's my worldview? What do I actually believe? Why do I actually believe it? And then align with people based upon who most closely aligns with your worldview. And I think that that's the more sane way of dealing with things. But everybody is just in this team sport mentality of, if you're a Republican, you have to destroy the Democrats. If you're a Democrat, you have to destroy the Republicans. And you're just yelling past each other. And I'm just like, I agree with both on different things. And it's crazy.
I couldn't agree more about that. I mean, yeah. And also part of that team politics that drives me crazy is that when your side is doing something that is objectively ridiculous, like pretending that your senile president isn't senile, or deporting 2-year-old American babies, you have to go along with it because after all, it's your side. But if the other side were doing it, then you'd be yelling at them for doing it.
Yeah. And both sides play the gotcha game. And how dare you do that? And if you did this, you would be upset. And I'm just like, you guys are both upset at each other for doing the exact same thing constantly.
Right.
And, and I'm just like the utter hypocrisy in politics is so frustrating, but it's very easy to get sucked into it because everybody just looks for confirmation bias because they're going for the team sport and they're my side needs to win. My side needs to do this. And I'm just like, but what do you actually believe about all this? Like illegal immigration is a perfect example where it's like, if you're a Democrat, you have to oppose illegal immigration because Donald Trump is for opposing border security because Donald Trump is for it. It's like, but just not that many years ago, you were supporting border security and building a wall and all this kind of stuff
and deporting millions of people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, at a certain point, do you guys see the hypocrisy? But nobody does, because it's just about, I have to own the Democrats or I have to own the Republicans.
Totally.
And it's like, this is going to end very badly for our country unless we get people to take a step back and stop identifying as a political party and start just identifying as, what do I believe? What are my principles? And then unite with people where you agree and debate with people that you disagree, but don't see each other as the enemy. There's only a small number of people that I count as my enemy in this country. And it's a very, very, very small percentage. The vast majority of Americans, we agree on a lot more than we actually disagree.
Yeah, studies have shown that too.
Yeah, but when you're only focusing on the wedge issues, it feels like we're a lot more divided than we actually are.
Totally.
Well said.
Yeah. Jeff Dornik, everybody go check out pickax.com. It's only available in the US, as Jeff says right now. So it's, I don't know what in the tech world is it called, beta, right? It's in the beta.
Yeah, technically beta. I converted it from beta to pre-launch. Basically, it's fully live right now, web-based only. Okay. We're going to be rolling out an app here in the next couple of months. And then I just had to jump through some extra hoops because we want to be a free speech platform, but still be accepted into the app stores. And so we're the way that we're actually doing that is our verification process, because we're weeding out the anonymous trolls and the bots, which usually are the ones pushing a lot of the horrific rhetoric. Great. So we had to do some extra stuff in order to make sure we could still be free speech.
See, that's really great, because if this were in real life, which obviously social media platforms are the new town square, if you're saying hateful, horrible things, whether it's like anti-Semitic, like I hate the Jews or whatever, or like, Black Lives Matter, you're gonna get faced with whoever's walking by. You're bound to offend somebody. And you can't hide, because they'll see your face. You are there. There will be some kind of reckoning or accountability. So I guess this is the only way to stop that, is like having real people and not some anonymous, free account troll that's just, you can make 20 accounts, 200 accounts, and you just fill up the platform with toxicity. Like, I think people are tired of that. And certainly grown adults like me are tired of that. They're just like, I hate Twitter. I find myself on Pinterest because I'm a middle-aged suburban soccer mom. So
I can't even figure out how Pinterest works. I think it's like a genetic testing thing. You know, like it knows I'm a guy, so it just doesn't work for me.
Doesn't work for straight dudes. It just it's not a thing.
I got to say, Pinterest is probably. I could see a scenario, and I'd have to look into the back end of the way Pinterest works. I could see a scenario where that's a massive data collection scheme because they can tell all of your interests. They can tell every single, like, the kind of data collection that they can do is insane.
Oh yeah, because I have boards for everything where I'm like, dream kitchen inspo, dream living room inspo, you know. Yes. So they know right away I'm a homeowner, I'm probably a middle-aged mom, I probably live in the suburbs, I probably have, you know, this many kids, I have a husband, you know. It knows so it knows market to me. It even markets comfortable shoes to me.
Exactly.
Well, enjoy those comfortable shoes.
Yeah, I'm considering. I'm in my mid 40s. You just got to do orthopedic.
I just ordered shoes today.
Don't be a hater.
Plantar fasciitis. Anyway, yeah.
That's right. Jeff Dornik, CEO of Pickax. He's a free speech advocate as well. Thank you so much for carving out time out of the busy CEO life. I don't know anything about it or tech, so I just know it sounds crazy and hectic. We'll certainly be following up with you, and I'll be signing up to check out what's, you know, you got to see what's out there, right? Like, and see where it feels most comfortable. Maybe I'll also be more comfortable at Pickax than X, you know. I don't like X, to be honest.
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus now.
Yeah, it's ugly. It just makes me angry and sad, and I don't want to feel that way. So
totally.
There's that. Thank you so much, Jeff. We appreciate your time.
Jeff.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.